Hi, everyone. Thank you for listening. As always, a reminder that this podcast does not constitute real estate advice, legal advice, broker advice, or advice of any other nature. This is an informative podcast. And if you need advice, please reach out to the correct professional who can help you. Thanks for listening.
Welcome to Launch, Grow, Harvest Podcast, Business Growth Coaching with Connie Boona and Roland Kim.
Hey, everybody. I'm Connie Boona.
I'm Roland Kim.
This is the Launch, Grow, Harvest podcast.
Welcome, everyone.
Welcome, gang. Today we want to talk about some potentially current events, current topics, talking about the current economic scenarios we're seeing unfold in the world. So just for those listening at home or in the car, we are in April of 2025 when we're recording the podcast today. And we are in the midst of some pretty interesting times.
So we're about 10 days into pretty deep tariff conversations from the U.S. against many countries. And then on April 9th today, after days of downwards pressure in the marketplace, it seems to be a little bit of a reprieve with a delay on those tariffs, and the markets jump back up. And it really caused us to have a conversation of the stability that real estate can provide and has provided centuries now to North Americans and other people in the world. And we were just talking about why that is, and it's often overlooked. Real estate is the bedrock of most people's wealth in the world. You need somewhere to live is the old adage, and often your best landlord, tenant, so to speak. It's interesting that definitely see it in the last 10 days where the markets have gone down, and now they look like they might be turning, and who knows, they might go down tomorrow. And it makes you wonder, why is it that real estate continues to have that stability over time, keeps going up? Mm-hmm. And also, for a little bit that I want to talk about is nature, right? Right now, we are in the Vancouver marketplace, years into a climate where we've had probably 30% less transactional volume on average than the 10-year average. Most people would agree that we continue to have a shortage of inventory as the markets are in a climate where we currently are and have been a little bit for a while. The developers aren't rushing to build. A lot of the pressures that have put a squeeze on real estate and really show that there's upwards pressure continue to fortify. And yet, lots of other great realtors are trying to have not selfish conversations, but conversations with our clients where it might be a really good time to start upsizing or thinking about it. Mm-hmm. And it's much harder to get clients to upsize in a negative mindset, even though the numbers work in the favor versus a hot market.
Absolutely. One of the things that I've been a lot of time thinking about as we've seen the dramatic volatility in the financial markets, being the stability of my real estate investments. And stability, as you mentioned, has been persistent for the last 2 years, despite the fact that prior to change of power in the U.S. and quite a number of fairly unprecedented decisions out of that administration, we were also experiencing our own volatility as it related to our interest rate environment, our economy generally. We have weathered out and through a period of incredible volatility as it relates to inflation. Once again, proves, and the Bank of Canada specifically has shown ability to steward the economy back to stability to a certain degree. From inflation as high as, did it get as high as 7% at one point? Yep. Back down to what is the goal of 2% to 3%. Interest rates as the primary mechanism of control. And so as interest rates went from 0.25% to like 5% in of 6 or 7 months, I think was the trajectory of that shift. That caused quite a shock, I think, generally speaking, across the real estate market. And it did exactly what it was intended to do, which was it really slowed things right down. And nationally, we've seen that impact across the country, regionally, and in our own territory here. As we're seeing transactional volume down, consistently, 10 average between 25 and 35%. And there is despite the data tells us we're 44% more inventory than the 10-year average, what we know to be true as agents working in the field is that we're still missing the inventory that buyers need. The missing middle is missing, those affordable 2, 3, 4-bedroom properties, and we use affordability with giant brackets, air quotes, if you will. Affordability is just a measure of where you're living. You're right that we're really not seeing a boom of inventory come out onto the market from the private sector at this time.
Yeah, definitely. No, it's, we are in the economy in a place where even developers who are, it's not, they're not at a certain point on the, not that they didn't make money on it, but they have to, if they can't sell it at that price, there's no point in starting the next project.
Yes.
So if they're going to wait, they might as well wait sitting on inventory. And so I'm seeing lots of half duplexes where, if they 1.9, there's no point in selling it because they have to sell the next one at 1.9 because they bought the house at 1.9 or the land. And so we're a little bit in a transitional stage where, the developer that we will, be growing slightly upwards.
Yeah.
I actually thought it was going to be, I didn't expect all the tariff and the Trump's stuff. And so I think that has delayed us maybe for 6 months, but I do believe 2025 will still finish higher than it started.
Yes.
And we are in a post-COVID high cost environment. I think we'll go back to what it was pre-COVID. I literally just bought another truck a week ago. Exactly the same truck 7 years ago was $45,000 and now it's $85,000. I don't see that changing.
Oh, definitely not in the current environment.
Right. And so it's the same thing where they can't sell fast because it doesn't make sense to move on to the next project.
Yes.
And so, we up speed again later this year and getting busier. What I find interesting, though, there are deals to be made in this market.
Yes.
And when you speak with clients that you feel, based on what you know, that are very to consider, if the numbers they're not best and final, it never ceases to amaze me the how much market influences on a big purchase. Kind of makes sense, but kind of tricks you. We're more number driven, and yet we're a lot more emotionally driven.
Totally. I completely agree. One of the foundations of my business is, and I say right to clients when we're meeting, is you're never, ever going to feel by me. It's just not my practice. The things that I'm looking at as an opportunity right now for my own portfolio is there are incredible deals to be had because people feel nervous. And so there are good opportunities out there, and certainly opportunities that I'm seeing for folks that are looking to get into the market for the first time. We've seen of inventory and therefore sort of the rise in prices across basically all of downtown Vancouver.
Yes.
I think downtown Vancouver has amazing value right now. Yeah. And holistically, even detached single family is not selling as quickly as we've seen in other market climates. We've got an abundance of duplex inventory on the market. It's if there's a 1.3 million range in bedroom, that's something that seems to be in hot demand and in scarce supply. But that has a direct correlation to just a massive lack of that in the market totally. I heard the city of Vancouver has established a group, city staff that are evaluating the potential for building on city land and building purpose-built rental. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, it seems, why hasn't it been done before, right? Like I much land, the governments municipally or provincially, but I have heard that as well. And some of that come out seem pretty dramatic that you've, had that sitting there.
Portfolio over 700 parcels is my understanding.
And I think, my view on this, I don't actively manage the way it can be, right? Because it's not as there's ways you can develop and keep acquiring, especially I would think if you're a city, you know where that will happen, and you can make some very strategic decisions to problem solve. Maybe the past has just not been the narrative of municipal governments to
Yes.
do housing.
Yes.
And I think for decades, probably that was never a core conversation between, provincial and is interesting recently, certainly with the running till the end of April.
Yes.
It'll be interesting what comes out of this year and over the next 2 years on, how much is the going to get back into
Yes.
building, which we
Yes.
stopped doing in the 70s.
Yes.
Hindsight's really, and yet hasn't solved the housing problem in the last couple decades. But you have to think there was with the fact that we stopped building in the 70s
Yes.
from a involvement and housing,
And we're in a housing crisis right
in a
now.
housing crisis, right?
Yeah.
So it's got to be part of the solution, if
Yeah.
not like clearly the solution.
And it's not isolated to a crisis only here.
No.
Right. This exists in many other across the country. One of the that really intrigued me is, again, like I believe in the value of real estate as a hedge against volatility. I believe that it's a valuable asset to hold, and I believe I'm intrigued. Municipality is looking at it as a revenue generator, so it's is everything I've as it should be, and it will be a scenario where like they're following other models, the other places where they have this volume of that's managed, and I don't know if it's specifically managed by the municipality, but certainly the municipality is benefiting from it, and the benefiting from the housing available, and an ecosystem that feeds itself. Right. The other piece that can provide too is I think that the diversity of these smaller environments and communities, like what we see, for example, in co-ops in False Creek,
Yes.
which were built of the funding that came from the
in the
federal
70s,
government
yeah.
in the 70s. It's an amazing, beautiful ecosystem of community. I think the modern view of co-ops is that they're only for poor people, and that is, for me, such a sad reality. It should be for everyone, and I believe it is for everyone. And I think that the allowing there to be more mixed communities like that is important for healthy communities.
Yeah, I mean, I think the right time, because like you were mentioning earlier, there's houses of a way that I've never seen before, where pre-COVID those would have been snatched up much faster than a new duplex,
Yes.
right? And I think there's a whole generation of us that don't know the old house or the land, and the nice part about that is I think we are getting to a place where that community-based building
Yes.
is actually desired. For my personal preference, I between my neighbors.
Yeah.
But that's my couple.
I mean, you did go on a farm.
Yeah.
You come by very honestly. I mean, one of the I'm thinking about as it relates to opportunities right now, I'm noticing for that coming, and this might be a direct result of coming out of COVID, there's this hang up right now with buyers that they must have laundry inside their suite. They want that modern amenity. And I think that folks are past inventory that has an incredible value proposition because it doesn't have this luxury. Obviously, it has laundry in the buildings, and the direct expense of their broader growth, the growth of portfolio, the what they're currently spending in rent into a mortgage.
You bring up a very good point.
Yeah, please expand on that.
If I think back to 15 years, 16 years ago, first started, I'd sit down with a client, we talk about their needs and wants, and we might have a conversation about what that would look like in the detached market and what it might look like in the condo market. And what I found was between what we initially said in meeting and what they ended up buying, very rarely was there a direct correlation and everything matched up, right? So like you mentioned, people would say in-suite laundry is a deal breaker, and then in the end it wasn't. They might mention they wanted in a certain area and they ended up being in another. So I feel, and I don't know what the answer is, but I do feel that we're on the path of I'm going to find a home, here's my wants and needs. They ended up a home that was different than what they initially started with, but they were happy. Mm-hmm. Where now I must say I've had a few clients where we've had false starts, right? We've started and they're a lot more astute and and focused on what they want, but we kind of peter out, won't buy anything because it doesn't exist.
Yes.
And you bring up it didn't,
Yes.
right? And you bring up a really good point where, is that really serving people? Because those folks have gone back into the rental market with the plan of like, I save up some more money instead of just, not thinking you control as much and taking the best of what's available.
And I think it's a lack of really analyzing the numbers.
Yeah.
And I think that, like in all, you need to interrogating the acquisition cost, the opportunity, and the carrying cost, or like that's of that. I'm seeing in marketplace people spend $150,000 more for equivalently the same product with the laundry. That for me is just a scenario.
Yeah.
Like more for essentially the same product, to have that seems, and I don't know if their agents are necessarily contextualizing things like that to them, but it is a very, very intriguing piece. At the end of the day, our job is to make decisions for our clients. Our job is to be advisors and ultimately help potentially illuminate some of these points for people. But ultimately, I think, as a way of this discussion, I think I am very, very hopeful that we have clear guidance at a federal level in Canada. By the end of the month, we will know who our federal leader will be, and whomever it is, I am very hopeful that they will continue to steward our country in the right for the future. And certainly as it relates to housing, I'm looking forward to more investment at a federal level in local housing.
I think that would be a great step.
Friends, thank you so much for listening. As always, this is Connie Buna and Roland Kim. You can find us on the interwebs at kimbuna.com or launchgrowharvest.com. Thanks so much for listening.
Thanks, everyone.